Do you have the rare trait that so many multi-millionaire power couples have? And you've ever wondered, how do I increase my sales? How do I generate more revenue? How do I show up as the best leader that I possibly can? How can I show up as the best partner that I possibly can? How can we make our brand and our business magnetic to the rest of the world so that way we attract dream leads, dream clients, and create the dream lifestyle that we know we can create? Well, if you've ever had those desires, you might be pleased to know that there is one trait that really amazing couples in business have developed over time that makes all of those things so much easier. And the good news is that this trait is 100% controllable. People aren't born with it. Yeah. People don't inherit it. So here's what we're going to do today. We are not only going to show you what this trait is, we're going to give you some practical steps that you could take literally today with your significant other to start developing this trait and deploying that into the marketplace to generate more revenue and have more fun in the process. So Ariel, what is this trait that all of the entrepreneur power couples who run $1 million businesses, well, I should say most of them have? What is it?
This trait is what we like to call couple confidence. Has anybody ever been in a room where a couple walked in and they just catch the gaze of every single person, right? They just look so powerful. There's such a strength between them. Mm-hmm. That's what this looks like physically.
Yeah. Now let's break this down. If you look at just the word confidence and we break apart that word into its core components, the core component of the word confidence is the word confide. Have you guys ever thought of that before? I know when I first heard this, I was like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. Because what does the word confide mean? The word confide means to trust. So if you confide in somebody, you are trusting in what they may have to say or trusting them to lend an ear to you. So when you look at the word confidence a lot of times is putting trust into something. So if you have self-confidence, that means that you can trust yourself to do the things that you say you're going to do. That's why if you've ever been out there, you've heard people talk about how confidence is built by saying you're going to do something and sticking to your word and just doing the things you say you're going to do and keeping the promises you make to yourself. Maybe you've heard that before. Yeah. That's why, is because the more times you keep the promises you make to yourself, the more self-confidence you have. And people can feel that when you're somebody that stacks up a whole laundry list of integrity. Yeah. That being said, though, when it comes to couples, especially entrepreneur couples, the term couple confidence takes the idea of trusting in yourself or having self-confidence and turns it towards your significant other, where you both have trust in each other to do the things that you say you're going to do. That's what we mean by couple confidence. And I can tell you, after coaching some amazing, amazing entrepreneur couples, the ones that are the most successful, they have developed this trait to become so confident in one another, to rely on each other so much, and to have confidence that if we walk into a room together, no matter what happens, it doesn't matter what anybody says, it doesn't matter what anybody does, it doesn't matter what happens to the business, what happens with their team, what happens with their clients, we have the confidence and trust in one another that we can do what is required to move forward and make our dreams a reality.
And that you'll have each other's back.
When couples don't trust each other, sometimes it could show up as one person feeling like they need to nag the other person in business. You've seen that, right?
Or mom them.
Right, because they don't trust them.
Because they don't trust them sometimes to do what they say they're going to do, right?
Yeah, so a wife might mom their husband because they feel like their husband isn't going to do the things that they said they were going to do it, and vice versa. A husband may kind of micromanage or overstep or even turn into commander mode, which I have been guilty of doing in the past, out of a distrust that the other person's going to do what they said they're going to do. That's how that shows up in the business world. But I'm sure you could think of some examples of how this shows up in home life as well. Yeah. If one partner can't trust the other partner to take the kids to school, or to make sure that their teeth are brushed, or to make sure that the errands are ran, or to make sure that certain things are getting done, what happens? Yeah. The more and the more promises are broken, the more and more the trust is drained. Yeah. And something that I've heard a long time ago that was so helpful is this: trust, the way that trust works is it's kind of like filling up water in a bathtub. It takes a long time to fill, and it just takes one pull of that drain for all the water in that bathtub to drain. And trust works in the same way. If you could think of the difference between couples who don't trust each other and couples who do trust each other, you guys can quickly catch on to the theme that we're talking about today, which is couple confidence. Yeah. The problem is is that it takes a long time sometimes to rebuild trust after it is broken. Now, I'm going to say, just as a disclaimer here, if you are in a situation or you found yourself in a situation in the past where trust has been broken a little bit, you're still kind of working through this dynamic of learning to trust your partner in the business, to pull their own weight, to, do the things that they say they're going to do. We hear you. Both Ariel and I, at different seasons of our life, have been in those shoes.
Absolutely.
There have been seasons where Ariel felt like she was pulling all the weight and I wasn't pulling enough, and vice versa. There have been times where I was like, come on, we got to get going. My gosh, Ariel, what are you doing? So we've all been there. But just because we've been there doesn't mean we need to stay there. So I just have a question for you guys. Would you like to know some things that you could do starting today in order to develop couple confidence, to become the couple that walks in to any room with strength and conviction, knowing that they can rely on their partner moving forward? There are really just 3 things that you guys could do, and you could start doing it today to develop more couple confidence in your working relationship.
That's right.
And since you're here, I think we should just tell them what they are.
All right. You want to give me my curtain?
I will give you the curtain. Behind curtain number 1, what is step number 1, Ariel?
Step number 1 to developing more couple confidence is, step 1 is choose something that you are committed to doing, ideally together, right? So the problem is that you and your partner know each other so well, and you have a front row seat to sometimes all of the commitments that you've broken, right? And when we say trust and when we say breaking commitment, these aren't always big things. Sometimes these are simple things like, maybe your partner said they were going to take out the trash and they didn't. Maybe in the business, your partner said they were going to, put out this piece of content and they didn't, right? Maybe, whatever it is, right? There's little things that just degrade the trust and degrade the trust that we have between each other. And again, you get to see it all.
Yeah.
You get to see it all.
You got a front row seat to every lie you've ever told. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And even when we don't mean for this to happen, it does sometimes, right? We break our word either to ourselves or to our partner or to other people, right? So what we want to do instead is choose one thing, just one simple thing that you can be committed to doing, ideally together. And the reason I say together is because if it's like, all right, Kyle, you're going to commit to taking out the trash every day this week. Now we're swapping into telling our partner what to do, right? But if you can commit to doing one thing together, like this could be going to the gym at the same time each day. It could be going to bed at the same time. It could be maybe you guys do like a weekly meeting together where you check in on the priorities for the week. This could be just one new thing that you're committed to doing and you're both going to do it, right? So to give you guys an example of this from our own lives is Kyle and I went through a period of time where we were really trying to stick to a schedule, right? We were trying to get better at our schedule, but specifically we were trying to go to bed earlier. We wanted to go to bed earlier, specifically for me. I need more sleep than Kyle does. I don't know why, but I like to have my sleep. And so for a while, I felt like Kyle kept pushing back the bedtime. Like he kept keeping us up later. He had so much energy at night. And so this just kept happening over and over, even though we said we were going to go to bed at, I think it was like 10 p.m. Right? So we said we were going to go to bed. Kyle kept pushing it back. And what started to happen is I started to feel resentment. I started to feel like I'm so tired because of Kyle, because he's not holding up his end of the deal, because he's not doing this. And when we talked about this, I was like, hey, I really need to rely on you to help us get to bed at this time. So this was our one thing. We chose this one thing out of all of the schedule and all of the things we could have done. It was like, let's just go to bed at this time. And we started doing that one thing over and over and over again. And after some time of this, the dynamic completely flipped. In fact, not only did I start to feel less resentment towards Kyle for being tired, but I actually started to be able to rely on Kyle to hold us to it. And so I actually started to be able to not only trust him, but really lean on him and rely on him. So that's what we want to do. So step number 1 is, again, choose something that you're committed to doing together. Step 2 is to commit to doing that one thing for 90 days. Now, hear me out on this. The reason that I say this, actually, I'm going to pass this to you. Sorry, I started talking too much.
No, I love what you talk. I think they do too. How many of you guys have ever started something that was really, really good for you and you did it for 2 weeks and then stopped? You guys ever been there? I know I have. I mean, let's look at New Year's resolutions. Let's look at workouts. Let's look at any sort of activity that's posting on social media. It's generating more leads. You guys have probably done something in your life where you're like, wow, this is great. I love doing this. And then you stop doing it.
Yeah.
It's human nature. That's because habits take a long time to build. But on the flip side, I remember when we did this crazy workout challenge called 75 Hard. Has anyone ever heard of that? It's nuts. Look it up. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But we did it. And what was, I think, the best thing about doing and completing 75 Hard is that we got so used to working out every single day that it just became a habit from there. Like we haven't stopped. We loved it. It was just so good. Because a lot of people, what they will do is they will pick one thing to stay committed to, and then a week or two later, they fall off the wagon. And then they assume that because you just tried something for a week or two or even 3 and it didn't work, that it won't work forever. Or human fallacy. Or
that you or sometimes your partner are incapable of sticking to it.
Right.
So then it'll actually increase the resentment sometimes where you're like, we said we were going to do this. You didn't do it this one time. And see, I told you, you can't do this. And that's what starts to develop.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Whatever you pick is your one thing between you and your significant other. If you can come to the resolve to commit to doing that one thing every single day or every single week, depending on the cadence of the thing that you picked, what's going to happen is, man, you get 90 days in, you will be a different human. Your relationship will be completely different. Yeah. Like for us, it was working out. That was huge for us. But even like in the business, there are certain things that when we commit to, like doing a daily check-in meeting or aligning on our priorities for the week.
Yep.
When the more and more we continuously did that, it became such a habit. Now it's just part of like who we are and what we do.
Yeah.
And what we want is the same thing for you and your significant other. Because imagine a world where you wake up and you just believe that anything your significant other says, it's as good as done. Yeah. And the same with you. You hold yourself to that same caliber. Anything that you say you're going to do, it's as good as done. Where your partner can look at you and say, if they said it, it might as well be written in cement because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And if you want to be that type of person and you want to have that type of relationship, it takes commitment.
And again, remember, don't come to solid conclusions until that 90-day challenge is complete.
Yes.
There's going to be times that you are going to fail. There's going to be times you're going to fail your partner. There's going to be times that they're going to fail you. If you said that you were going to, meet to do a daily check-in meeting like we do, and you were going to meet and your partner doesn't show, you have to give grace sometimes, but keep going for 90 days. Come back to it. Say, hey, we didn't meet at this time. Let's try again tomorrow. And if you continue to do that after 90 days, it'll become a habit.
Third step behind curtain number 3 is...
Step number 3 is, while you are building that habit, look for what your partner is doing right versus just wrong. It's very easy for us especially as entrepreneurs, right? Our job is to find problems and solve those problems.
Yep.
That's our job. That's our nature. That's what we're built to do. But what can happen is when that starts to turn on our relationship and our partner, especially if it's our business partner, is we start to focus more on the problems versus all of the good things that our partner is already doing, right? And we start to overlook those good things that they're doing, right? So for example, this could look like you're frustrated that your partner isn't, I'm just gonna use the taking out the trash example. They're not taking out the trash like they said they were going to, right? However, maybe they're helping get the kids to bed every single night, but they've been doing that now for 10 years that you don't even think about it anymore, right? We start to overlook it. We start to take it for granted. And we start to have this negativity bias where we feel like our partner is failing us in so many ways, where we feel like our partner is doing all of these things that are frustrating and irritating and they're not holding up their end of the deal. And we're forgetting to look at all of the ways that they are helping us, that they're supporting us, that they're cheering us on, that they're pulling their weight in the business, that they're owning their own role within the business or in the household. Right? There's so many things that our partner is doing right for every one thing that they might be doing wrong.
100%.
Right? So what we need to do is make ourselves more aware of what it is that they're doing right versus just wrong. And this is something that we've worked on with a few of our clients. Specifically, we had a client that, came to one of our calls and was very frustrated that they were trying to do like a weekly meeting. And she felt like her husband, like she would be ready for this meeting and her husband wouldn't be there. He wouldn't show, or he would make another appointment or be off doing something else at that time. And at the time, of course, we went through step 1 and step 2, right? Is like, okay, let's try just doing this once a week for 90 days and see what happens. But while you're doing that and while you're building this new habit, what are all of the things that your partner is doing right? Right? And she started to look and she's like, oh, he may not be showing up for these weekly meetings all the time. Like he shows up to a few of them, But like he does take the kids to school every day. And he does like take the trash out every day and really help. I don't know why I'm just focusing on that example, but this was a real example that she shared. Like he does help with the kids. He does take out the trash. He does do all of these things. And he also is like supporting me they have separate businesses. He's also supporting me in the business and always cheering me on. Mm-hmm. And she started to focus on this, and her list of all of the things that he was doing right became way longer than the one thing that he was doing, quote unquote, wrong. Mm-hmm. And the same is probably true for you as well.
And what's going to happen is when you let other people know and you let your significant other know what they're doing right, it is going to drastically change that level of trust and that level of confidence that you both have in each other. An example from our own life is, I remember, because listen, we're all like you guys too. Like we go through these seasons ourselves. We're not perfect. Where it was a couple summers ago, I remember getting in the state. I was talking to a coach myself, and I was telling this coach, man, I just feel like no matter what I do, I always have to be the one that steps in and fixes everything. Always. Like, it's so annoying. I wish I could just delegate to other people, but I have to always be the one that steps in to fix things, even amongst my relationship with Ariel. And again, there was a season of time where I felt like I needed to, no matter what we were doing in business or in our life, I always needed to like step in and like finish something in order to do it well. Then this coach looked at me and he asked me a question that kind of changed my life a little bit. He said, Kyle, when was the last time that you let Ariel do and complete a task all on her own without you having to jump in? And I was like, well, I don't know. And he's like, have you ever just let her complete something without you jumping in? And I was like, well, I don't think so. That's a really good question.
What were you doing earlier?
That's right. So guess what I tried? Instead of communicating distrust, I started communicating trust to Ariel. And I said, okay, if you're going to do these things, I trust you to do them. And I'm just going to stay out of them. I'm going to resist the need to have to feel like I need to fix things. And you know what happened? She not only did them really well, she did them better than I would have even guessed to do it. And this started to build trust and confidence in each other. And because you had a similar thought to me as well at one point.
Yeah.
So guys, it's really simple. If you ever have been where I am, where you feel like you need to fix it, you need to jump in order to do it well, take an inventory of your life and ask yourself the question, when was the last time I let my partner complete something on their own? And while we're at it, what are all of the other things that they're already doing that we're just not aware of? Because in that time too, I also looked at everything Ariel was contributing. So I felt like I was pulling all the weight, but then I look at Ariel's life and I'm like, wait a second, she is doing the design. She is setting up the operations. She is putting a hiring plan in place. She is training our team members. She is doing so many things that I don't even have to think about or focus on because she's doing it all. And that doesn't even count the fact that she's also putting together the grocery list. She's managing our house managers that come and like clean our houses for us. She is the one that is putting together all of the projections for the year. So that way we're maintaining some sort of level of linearity in terms of how we're going to accomplish the goals that we set for ourselves. Like that is Ariel's world. She lives in that world. And she's really good at it. What you love good at?
Thank you.
Well, she's good at it. And what you guys might find is if you take an inventory of all of the things that your spouse is doing well, or that your partner or your significant other is already contributing towards your life or your business, here's what you might find. What seems like a lot of broken trust can actually be rebuilt. Maybe not overnight, but just like we said earlier, if you slowly but surely start to fill up that bathtub and you keep your words to yourself and you stay committed to what you say and you keep going for 90 days and you look for what's going right, I guarantee you guys, you will be a completely different couple 90 days from this commitment that you're making.
That's right.
Right now. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Mic dropped.